and welcome to How Do You Drew?
This is a Drew Barrymore podcast brought to you by thedrewsium.com.
And sponsored by our friends at Positive Medium.
I'm Anne.
And I'm Ashley. And we are doing this.
Finally. We're doing this.
Oh, I'm excited.
If you guys haven't seen the title, which you probably have, even if you have, we've been talking about this a lot. And Ashley has been diving into research. I just finished the movie, literally just finished it right before this. So
that's great, though, because it's fresh in your mind.
It's fresh. Not that the plot really had to be like, it's that complicated or anything, but let's jump into Poison Ivy.
Poison Ivy. This is, I feel like, one of the big heavy hitters of Drew's filmography, one of the most important in terms of like where her career trajectory went. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a fan favorite. Like there's so many reasons to get to this one. And I think we were a little intimidated for a bit, but we're ready. We're ready, baby.
Yeah, we have to be. We are the foremost experts on Drew Barrymore. So
did you see that quote from Cinema Sugar? It was the, hold on, I got to think of the exact phrasing. The world's preeminent scholars of Drew Barrymore. It just rolls off the tongue.
They just decided that. We were just humble little archivists, historians over here, and now
scholars,
preeminent experts.
I love it. So this is a part of our scholarship.
Yes,
does that make sense? Sure.
Yeah, it does. This is definitely part of our scholarship. It's the College of Drew.
Should we talk about first, because neither of us obviously saw this when it came out, so we don't really have to put it during the release part where we normally would talk about it. Do you remember the first time you saw Poison Ivy?
Oh, I don't think I do, but it had to have been at the time when I was watching everything Drew, so probably between 1998 and 2000.
Yeah.
So I was definitely young when I saw it. I mean, if that's like, it's just interesting to think about. Like I was between 14 and 16 probably when I saw it.
Mila would be so scandalized by this movie. Mom, why? This is disgusting. Like I can hear it now.
But it's also like, it's pretty scandalous.
Yeah.
What do you recall about your first time seeing it?
So I must have seen it between 98 and 99 because I know like which house I was living in. I feel like I might have actually gotten this one recorded off like like a premium cable channel. Okay. Like I don't think I got this one from the movie from Blockbuster from what I remember. But I definitely remember being like, I hope no one walks in on this movie, like sort of like little, there were some certain scenes I remember being like, oh my God, my parents are going to be so weirded out by me.
It would have felt embarrassing. Yeah. I wish I remembered more details about where I watched it. Because I probably would have watched it like on some little TV that we had a VCR set up to. I don't even remember like getting my first copy. Like I wish my memory was better about some of those details, but every time I see it, I'm like, Drew is so great in this. So like, I know I felt that. And I know we've always admired her performance in this. And of course she's stunning. Like it's such an iconic role.
It holds up in a lot of ways.
It's almost hard for me to like think of just little me, with the amount of information about Poison Ivy I've put in my head since I first saw it. It's like,
oh yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I do remember, who knows where I got the VHS, but I do remember it's like double-sided. Like one side is like the VHS cover and the other side is the movie poster. Does that sound right? Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
Find my VHS when I looked, so I'll have to dig into that.
And I know mine's in storage. I wish I could tell you. Is it on our site?
I mean, mine is too.
It's on our site, right?
We were really good about doing all of our VHS DVDs at one point, and then we kind of were like, this is so boring.
And then we stopped. But now have you looked at that section of our page recently?
No.
That's
the
yours. One I have. Yeah. So maybe you have a different one.
I think I do.
Because this is like it looks like a later release to me because it looks like the DVD. Or wait, sorry, that's Laserdisc.
Yeah, I do have the Laserdisc. That I found. All right. Way to get way off track already. What? Right
Immediately. So
tidbits galore.
Yes. So we're going to just jump into some facts a little bit here. So Poison Ivy was written by Melissa Goddard. It was based on a real life incident that happened to her. I did not know that.
Yeah, I would love the details. Who knows how like close. It might just been like my friend kind of bonded with my mom and I was annoyed.
True. And co-written with Andy Rubin and Kat Shea and directed by Kat Shea. I don't know how much we'll get into like the fact that it's directed by a woman, but it is very interesting to think of it through that lens.
Yeah. And mostly written by women. So I do appreciate that. And I think there is definitely some like male gazy stuff. There is some stuff where I'm like, why'd they go there?
Yeah. But there is kind of like empowerment a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's also like, I feel like it could have been worse. Like it could have been exploitative, which I don't really think it is, but we'll get into that stuff.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Do you want the IMDb summary? This is a really good one.
All right. So good. We have a 1-sentence summary from IMDb. A seductive teen befriends an introverted high school student and schemes her way into the lives of her wealthy family.
True. That's like pretty succinct, accurate.
I mean, the only things that are missing are spoilers. So
yeah. So good job, IMDb.
That's pretty good.
Once in a while.
Schemes is like the key word here.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised I didn't use that word in my notes. I used manipulation a lot, though. All right. So let's talk about the production of this film, how it came to be.
Okay.
We can put ourselves at a time and place. We're in the very early 1990, 1991. Drew is trying to distance herself from what she always says is like America's apple pie, the image of Gertie and E.T., but she was also struggling to get roles post-rehab. And also like due to her age, she's in this weird, awkward in-between space.
It makes a lot of sense that this is departing from that apple pie image. Like it couldn't be a bigger departure. So successful.
Yeah. And she was just talking to Christine Taylor and David Lasher on her show about this. So let's hear how she described it in 2024, years and years and years later.
So one day I did get an idea and I was like, if they think I'm such a kid, what if I tried something different? And I found this script called Poison Ivy. It's so good. It's so good. And I was like, tease the hair.
Oh, I love this.
That's that girl.
That's that girl.
Wow, you just got a lot tougher.
And then that's what I did for a couple years. I was doing those kind of more femmy, sexualized, roles.
Perfect clip. And that makes me feel like we're doing this. I mean, I know we could have done it the last 8 weeks and it would have been fine, but also like that we're doing it at the right time to revisit it when like she can see looking back, like she was taking power, right? I don't know. It was.
Yeah. I don't really feel like there's anything in her career she looks back on like, oh, I wish we wouldn't talk about that. But
True.
It is like reassuring and validating when she's like, yeah, let's talk about how sexy I was in Poison Ivy.
Yeah, that it's like she's not being shamed. She doesn't feel shameful.
Yeah.
Like that's really nice and empowering.
Yeah. She also spoke about this briefly on the E! Celebrity Profile. That interview was from 1997. So we're jumping all over time, but it's cool because we got lots of different viewpoints.
And eventually word gets around town that you're doing well, you're doing good on your auditions. That led to another audition, and that audition led to someone talking to another person who was doing a low budget film called Poison Ivy. And that was my first film back.
Celebrity Profile.
When Celebrity Profile returns. Yeah, it's cool. I love seeing both of these looks back.
Yeah.
So yes, the one thing that we've probably talked about before, and this is like kind of known about how Drew felt, when she heard that Ivy had a tattoo of a cross with Ivy on it, she was like, I've got a very similar one on my ankle and this feels meant to be. She like always kind of had that feeling.
And it was so fresh.
Yes.
That tattoo. So yeah, I love that it was like her final sign of like, yep, this is the way to go.
Yep. And you pulled a clip from Kat Shea talking about Drew and the role. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. So she said, I hadn't thought about Drew for the part at all, but I knew the minute she walked up my front steps, she was perfect. She's got this quality. It's kind of the angel and devil wrapped up into one. She's so seductive. She can manipulate anybody into doing whatever she wanted.
Well said.
Yes.
I mean, that is Drew, right? Innocent and like experienced all at once, always, all stages of her life.
Do we know anything about anyone else that was considered for this?
No, gosh, that would be amazing to find out.
Like, who else would have been able to pull it off?
Winona. No, just kidding.
Oops.
So we have a lot of material here where Drew talks about what it was like to play a character like Ivy. Some of these might be a little repetitive, but there was just so much good stuff I kept coming across.
I don't know. I also love a long quote that gives us like the entire feeling. And we know we like how Drew describes things. So if they're her describing things, I'm all for it. So let's start with some little clips, eh?
Hey, let's do it.
This is the girl that you've envied your whole life, that you always wanted to be in your wildest fantasies, but never, ever, ever dreamed or even thought of becoming someone like that. And for me, being Ivy let me live out those fantasies.
Okay, Drew, agreed. Let's hear more.
Sometimes we laugh because it's fun, because I really get to play a bad girl in this, and I get to get out all my anger through my character, which is pretty interesting sometimes to see myself release.
So that was cool. That one was on set.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh. There is like actually some really great on-set footage that's available, which is so surprising. Like you would think this would not be.
Yeah, for this.
Just a small little movie.
And she called it like low budget, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's jump into some of these quotes you pulled.
Yeah, I pulled a lot from magazines. So these are all from magazines from 1991, 1992.
Okay.
The first one is, quote, I play a girl who has nothing, who befriends another girl who has everything. My character tries to acquire everything her friends got. Her motives are good, but the way she goes about it is bad. The movie crosses a certain line of behavior. It explores territory I found interesting.
Do we think that the other girl has everything? You know, I don't know. I like that idea that it's about wealth.
To Ivy, she does.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. She has the family.
The house, the dog.
True. It's all that. Here's another one. Ivy is a good girl. Her motives are right. She just goes about getting things the wrong way. I had to play her so that people would love and accept her, and at the same time, hate what she's doing. It was really hard, and I loved it.
That's a great way of putting it, because you do kind of really enjoy Ivy, even though you don't agree with what she's doing.
and part of it is the manipulation. Like we can see through it as the audience, but it's also like she can pull that off.
Yeah. Another quote. It was the hardest film I've done in my whole life. It was this role you have to basically turn your life over to. My character has no family. She's a complete free spirit. Then she becomes best friends with this girl. We're both total outcasts, but we're very opposite. She dresses in overalls and hats, and I dress in cowboy boots and skirts up to my undies.
Kind of skangy.
Skangy.
Skangy. We'll get into that later. They use the word skangy at least twice in this movie.
Twice, yeah.
These comparisons, like, yeah, it's true. They are both outcasts, but they're very different. But it's like, is their friendship completely based on this manipulation? Like, yeah, kind of.
We'll have some things to say about that. I have mixed feelings. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we will get into that. Because there was a point actually, when she's like pretending to be her mom, that I was like, that's kind of sweet. She's giving her a moment to talk about her mom. And then I was like,
I think she starts genuinely, like, maybe there is a power dynamic and she knows she has the upper hand, but I think she genuinely wants to be friends with Sylvie.
Yeah.
And then things start turning.
Yeah, let's talk about that more. Because I think there are definite moments where you can go like, oh, that's actually darling.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another. I play a girl by the name of Ivy, and my character is very intelligent, a very bright and funny girl. If you've ever met a person whom you're in awe of at first sight, that's who my character is, an amazing human being who brightens the lives of those whose paths she crosses, a blooming flower who has no friends and no family.
That one.
But that's a really cool one, a blooming flower who has no friends and no family.
the whole thing, it's definitely she's skirting around how like evil Ivy is in that one.
Yeah.
And you would just be like, wow, like it almost sounds like Drew, right?
Yeah.
I like it though.
Yeah.
All right, we're almost done with these descriptions, but here's another great one. Ivy was the kind of girl who in reality you would never want to become, but maybe when you were younger, you even knew a girl like Ivy who made you say, why can't I be that free? Why can't I just do the things she does, even though what she does is wrong? At least she has the guts to go and do it. I loved Ivy so much for that and wanted to play her regardless of whether it was a good career move.
And she's saying this like the year it came out. So
yeah, I think she knew deep down it was going to be a good career move, or she hoped anyway. I mean, based on what she was just saying on her show to Christine Taylor, like she hoped this would be what it was. She was right.
Of course there was a risk, but she somehow was charming enough that people didn't find it actually like, I don't know, whatever they might find it. I don't know. It is very cool that she can talk about this character this way. Like she knew that she was just representing somebody that other people would admire, you know?
And it really shows that she really understood the character of Ivy, like in all these different facets, because she's describing her in a lot of different ways here. And I think that probably really
it comes off. I think that she knows it's like a multifaceted. It is not a singular. You don't understand Ivy. We don't know who she is, and that's like fascinating. So anyway, here's one more. She said, "I always wanted to play Lolita, and this was my last chance."
I felt like including that just so we could go on a quick little side thing about her obsession with Lolita all throughout like her young years.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. And I don't want to go too much on like a soapbox about like the underage stuff. But I think at this time she saw Lolita as like this seductive manipulator. And I think like as I've gotten older and known more about the story, that's really not what it's about. And like she's a victim in that story.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that Drew was so obsessed with it. Like it comes up so many times when she's younger.
But probably because of the film, right? Because like the film
could be,
was so I actually have never seen it, but it was so iconic.
She picked it for the essentials. That was the only time I've seen it.
Is it Stanley Kubrick?
Yeah.
So like I don't know. I mean, there could be something to it that it wasn't like she wasn't even thinking about the story as much as it was like a beautiful young girl
getting to. Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know, because there is some, as weird as it is for us as adults to go like, you know, young girls, like we don't want to think of any young girls that way, and yet we want girls to feel sexy and powerful.
Yeah, I think she was taking it that way when she was this age. I'd be very curious which her take on Lolita is these days, but she was, I mean, she name dropped it a lot back then. So I do like thinking that that's sort of what she was inspired by in some way. Yeah. Even if she was misunderstanding the story.
There's no way it couldn't be inspired by it, I feel like, right? This is a cool little detail. I don't remember this. So Drew celebrated getting the role of Ivy by indulging in a shopping spree. And she went to her favorite stores, Benetton, Aardvarks, and The Gap. Is this Aardvarks on Melrose?
I think so. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Isn't that fun? And I think, I don't know why I feel this way, but is that where are they shopping on Melrose in the movie? Like when she gets the leather skirt? I don't know why I think that. Or is it just Melrose-esque?
I don't know.
Kind of cool to think about.
There's a couple like things in the movie where I'm like, where's that exactly? Like, even though we'll get into it, but we've been to a couple locations, but there are even more that I'm like, I should look, because it's probably all right around that same general area of LA.
Probably. Yeah. It's a very LA movie in some ways and not in others. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Let's quickly talk about the rest of the cast, because there's really not that many other people. There's some really small roles, but pretty much we just have Sara Gilbert, who I think is the lead of this movie, even if she's not the title character. She plays Sylvie Cooper, or Coop as Ivy calls her. They later reunited in Riding Cars with Boys, which is really fun. Like it's such a cute little thing. I just love that.
And I don't immediately think of it. That's the other cool thing about it. And also that it was only 9 years later. That's also another trippy thing. What?
Yeah, that's really weird. But Sara was on the Drew Barrymore show in 2021. And I just thought this is a little long, but I just thought it was too cute not to include this. Just sort of hearing how it was like back then.
I'm not one to kiss and tell, but
please do.
But I have to say, look, now I'm like gonna blush. Drew was the coolest person that I ever met. And yeah, and that's what happened.
Well, we were supposed to kiss in the movie, but then we started practicing in the trailer, which was kind of fun.
We had to practice, right? It was really just us doing research.
Exactly. We were like, oh, I guess we should like practice because we wanted to look good on screen. We had so much fun. I remember, I feel like it was in the parking lot in Los Feliz, right? We were like, had that little base camp.
Oh, yeah.
I drove that Jeep and I used to go get like ice cream on the lunch breaks and I was like constantly getting into accidents. I think I had my license taken away on that movie.
I remember you like dancing on the hood of the Jeep and yeah, you were a wild child, but in the best possible way. I was impressed.
Oh, that's so cute.
I know. What great details.
You were a wild child. That was so cute. Some other cast that we've got to introduce. So we have Tom Skerritt as the dad, Daryl. He has said that Drew represented herself as someone who was going to overcome whatever problems she had. That's really cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, he clearly respected her presentation of herself.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And how like professional she was probably.
Yeah.
And then finally, Cheryl Ladd plays the mom, Georgie. And I think it's cool that she was a Charlie's Angel, years before Drew became one.
Yeah.
And then I always also like that her daughter, Jordan Ladd, is in Never Been Kissed. She's the mean girl, Gibby. So that's sort of a fun connection.
That's right. We also kind of have to talk about the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio is credited as Guy, quote unquote. So people think you can see him and have like thought that he's walking out of like the school, and no,
it's not him.
No, it's not him. I remember at one point it was like, oh yeah, like right in the scene with the dog. It's like, nope, he's not in there. Like,
yeah, it's weird because the credits say that they're in order of appearance, but I sort of remember them being that way, like on the VHS. Maybe I'm losing my mind, but when I watched it this time, they are not in order of appearance. So it's not really helpful to figure out where he's at. But he was friends with Sara Gilbert. He was probably on set. We know, based on like firsthand from our friend Jolina's boyfriend, Jason, he was in Never Been Kissed. He was contracted a certain way. He ended up not getting to do that part, but he still gets the credit because of the way that SAG works, I'm assuming. So just because Leo isn't in the movie doesn't mean he wasn't credited. And just because he's credited doesn't mean you're going to find him anywhere.
So weird. But we don't have really any details.
Yeah. It just makes me crazy that there's this clip on YouTube like, this is him. And it's like, no, it's not.
Okay, so Drew said about the crew at the time, she said, the crew was the tightest, closest family I've ever had. I was like everyone's little sister. That makes me happy to think of her feeling protected. That's
so weird. Like if you pulled that quote and said, what movie is she talking about? I would have guessed E.T.
Yeah. But it's like to think of her feeling safe.
Yeah,
it's really lovely to imagine with a role like this.
I know. There's also an on-set video interview, and we'll link to a lot of these. But she kind of says that same old thing about how she got so close to the crew and was going to have to say goodbye to them. We've been talking about this a lot on our Patreon when we're going through Little Girl Lost. So it's just a reoccurring theme in her life.
Yep. Patreon.com.
All right. We have to talk about the sex scenes with Tom Skerritt.
Yeah. I think this is important to address ahead of time too, because we mentioned that the movie's raunchy. If you're listening to this, you probably know that already.
Raunchy?
Raunchy.
Scangy.
It's scangy, raunchy. Drew gets down.
She does.
I'll go ahead and read the first quote that you pulled. So she said, "It's funny because we were both really nervous And I thought he'd just come right out on set and take over and everything would be perfect. But he was really shy. So I had to be the one with the ovaries and say, okay, let's go. I saw some of the dailies and they look really hot. They're very passionate and erotic, but also very subtle. And again, this is before the movie came out that she's talking about this. Yeah. Be the one with the ovaries.
I know. I love that.
Yeah.
She also said, I was just as nervous as he was, but I had to act like I wasn't to make him more comfortable. So pretty much the same thing. But yeah. I feel like that's kind of funny because I actually kind of appreciate that he was sort of like, this is weird, you know, you're 16.
I don't want the other way around in kind of any scenario. So even if he's not shy, I'm glad he acted shy. You know, so Drew was upset about a body double that they used for her, even though she was emancipated and legally 18. And she said about that, I had to sit there and watch her do it. And I was cringing in my seat. It's difficult to like watch someone else fake you.
I can't even imagine how weird that would be.
No.
And then, of course, as we mentioned in our movie line 1992, she said, no offense to the girl, but I have prettier boobs.
So I think the version I watched didn't have like the uncut stuff. Is it just like one scene where he lifts the shirt?
Yes, that's what I think it is. So it's not even that blatant.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I remember reading this. Yes. So if you want to listen to us talk more about that for any reason, listen to that Movie Line 1992 episode that we did because it's a great one.
Yeah, it was definitely something we sort of did to gear up to this episode. Yes. So they're nice companion pieces.
Yes, exactly.
The last little production note I have is that the title changed a few times for this movie. At one point, they were calling it Desire, and that's actually even printed on some press photos, which is wild. Yeah, I think I have a couple of them.
Interesting.
And then when Drew did a cover feature for Venice magazine in early 1992, she said that the movie was being called Our House, which I'm so glad they changed that. Not good.
No, that Desire. Okay. Poison Ivy. Yeah. That's the name. Although when we search for Poison Ivy and we're looking for stuff related to Drew, it's all like Batman stuff.
Uma Thurman. Yeah, that's true.
So that's the only problem is the title. It was reused or was a character name.
Howdy, Drewbies. We want to tell you about our sponsor, Positive Medium. We've actually been clients of theirs for at least 10 years, and they take care of all of our website needs for thedrewsiam.com.
They offer custom web design and professional coding, search engine optimization, marketing, and hosting. So we've been hosted by them, but we've also been able to take advantage of a lot of their expertise in these other areas as well.
Absolutely. So customer service is the biggest draw for us with this company. They have saved our site literally from obliteration quite a few times. But then they also help us with minor issues in just like literally a matter of minutes. So if we have like a coding question or just like something on the back end we can't figure out, we reach out to them and we get an answer back and the issue is solved within moments.
We're so excited that Positive Medium is allowing us to offer our listeners 25% off managed WordPress hosting plans using our promo code DREW, D-R-E-W, of course. And if you want to take advantage of this, visit positivemedium.com. We really, really vouch for these people. They've been so great to us and will continue to be great to us. I can only imagine.
I mean, they're great by offering this to our listeners. So take advantage. Again, it's promo code DREW, of course.
Are we ready to jump into talking about the movie?
Yeah, insert sexy saxophone music here. It is like right when it starts, you're like, whoa. In fact, I bet you that was one of those moments as a teenager where I put it on and was immediately like, oh my God, what is this? Nobody listened to this.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into just going through the movie. I think when we first did these episodes, we were like talking about everything, talking through it. This is just us like making note of stuff we thought was fun to note.
Yeah, which there's plenty. I took a lot of notes this time around.
Yeah, and I took a few notes to go alongside this, but this is just us kind of as we're watching, we just go, that's fun. So not comprehensive. Again, if you haven't seen the movie, watch the movie because we're talking about very specific things.
And there will be a lot of spoilers.
Absolutely. So yeah, sexy sax. I have to say at some point, I think I noted that maybe like there's like a theme song.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely a theme, right? And I think they use it. I was trying to figure out if there were differences throughout the movie.
I think there's some variations.
Maybe.
And there's also like the mom's kind of like, there's a couple themes, but I know the main one is right at the top.
Of course, the mom's theme.
Yeah.
Of course.
Good. The music is really cheesy, but really good.
Yeah. So let's talk about like her look right away. Come on.
Oh, well, immediately, I really love that it starts off just like literally opening credits. There's just these shots of Ivy's like accessories and her clothes and her hair. And then she flips that hair and we get her sweet, beautiful face. And it's a great opening and great reveal.
Yeah. Those first shots of her. Yeah. I love those like individual little reveals.
On the rope swing. I should have said she's on the rope swing.
Yes. She's on the rope swing. And just right away, you're like, oh, I get it. This is like a badass.
Yeah.
This is like a sexy badass because that looks scary.
I know.
And Drew looks beautiful. It's a beautiful like opening of just like her.
And Sara Gilbert's character is watching her and like writing in her journal maybe or sketching her. And I love her voiceover here and throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's the perfect like awkward teen. She's trying so hard to be cool, but she's just a nerd. Like, and it's just so good.
I think she does a great job at it. And
it really does.
And the voiceover is great. Like there are some times when voiceovers are like, why? But I actually feel like it feels well suited.
Yeah.
Because
I think
we need her dialogue.
Yeah. We need to know this is her story because Ivy's so enchanting. Otherwise it would sort of become hers.
Did you already said she used the word scangy?
No, but I loved, immediately I was like, scangy. That's a great word. We got to use that more often. That's going to become a word of the pod. I just know it.
Scangy.
And my last note on this opening scene is that it ends with Ivy winking at Sylvie. Yep. And I feel like and Sylvie's like taken off guard, like, oh, you knew I was watching you. And it's sort of like, yep, Ivy's already on to her. She's already knows, like.
She's sly. She's wise. She's paying attention. That's why she's a good manipulator.
She's street smart from living the way she did.
Yeah, because we get just like little peeks of who the real person is.
Yeah.
The next scene where they have to like basically kill the dog because it had been hit by a car and quote unquote Ivy comes out and does the job.
It's so brutal. I don't know, like. You know, this probably was my first time watching this movie on like a really good TV on like a nice Blu-ray player. Don't watch that scene if you don't like that kind of stuff because it is gory. Like, I don't even want to go into detail, but I was like, whoa, why are we showing that? Oy, it was really upsetting.
Yeah, I didn't watch a high quality version of the movie.
Okay, you're probably lucky. But I think it's kind of an interesting foreshadowing and spoilers here. Ivy comes in and like this dog got hit by a car. Ivy comes in and someone's got to like basically put the dog out of its misery. That's sort of what I think Ivy thinks she's doing. It's like a mercy kill.
And I think somebody right before that is like, somebody needs to kill it or somebody needs to whatever.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of similar to what she ends up doing to the mom, where she's like, she wanted to die. Like, I just had, she justifies it to herself.
Yeah.
It's a cool foreshadowing.
It is interesting that she is able to do that without any, like, basically they show Ivy's face after she does it. And she's like,
yeah, what?
Matter of fact.
Yeah. There's also some really cute on-set footage of Drew complaining that the pole that she uses is too heavy for her to swing.
I think I remember that little clip. That is really funny.
But she manages.
She does manage, and she looks like a badass right away. Like her entry into this movie is like, all right, she's swinging on a swing. She's swinging a pole. Pretty crazy. Let's talk about the next scene, which was at a location that we visited. So the high school, a school called Alverno High School in Sierra Madre. This is close to where I was living for a long time, but I think we visited it before that, maybe. Yeah, and remember this next part. It was used in No Place to Hide, which was filmed just a few months prior. That's so weird too.
Yeah, what a weird coincidence.
What?
It's like I think it's like a convent in that movie. I know it's like when she's wearing the overalls, like towards the end. I barely remember that movie, but I believe Kent, our friend Kent, who is, by the way, like the biggest Poison Ivy fan there is. I think he was the one that realized it was in that movie as well.
Oh, okay.
And then I just noticed watching Legally Blonde recently that it's like the sorority house in the beginning of the movie. I was like, wait a minute, that's the Poison Ivy school.
That's funny. There's so much stuff that's used for filming in like that area. Sierra Madre, Pasadena, South Pasadena. It's just like filming capital. And this was in the 90s, but it still is.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So we're at the school. Sylvie has to go to the principal's office, let's assume, and Ivy's already in there.
Mm-hmm.
And she shows that her tattoo is a stick-on tattoo. This cross with the ivy through it that we mentioned before on her leg. And I have a funny story. There's this great Instagram account called @90sgirlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like one of us. Like she has all the like 90s Drew memories, everything.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff gets reposted on our social media because it's so relevant.
And I saw her leave a comment somewhere. I hope she's okay with me sharing this, but it was so funny to me about that kind of stick-on tattoo in the movie. And like, is that even a thing that exists? And she said that when the Us 1997 magazine came out with the big picture of Drew's butterfly tattoo, she cut that out and used Vaseline to try to stick it on like the ivy tattoo.
Oh my God, that's so amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
That is so amazing.
90s teen girls.
Less permanent than getting the actual thing.
Right, which I do have a butterfly tattoo inspired by Drew and no regrets, but yeah. Did you notice that we get a little bit of that Drew child smirk happening in this scene when she talks about the nose ring?
Yeah, I forget what the line was, but I completely noticed it.
He says like, feels like you've got a booger going like, or something like that. But she does that same exact, like, I'm about to laugh smirk.
Yeah. I love that little thing.
She hadn't grown out of it yet. So they're kind of getting to know each other. Sylvie goes outside to her dad's car. And his very first words in the movie to his daughter are, I ought to slap you. It's like, yikes.
Introduction of father.
Not cool. But then it makes me laugh so hard. I always laugh at this. I laugh at a lot of Sylvie's lines.
Yeah.
Because she's just so like sad and pathetic. Ivy asks for a ride. Dad says no. They just met 3 minutes ago. And she goes, Dad, she's my best friend. It just kills me every time.
I don't think of her as being a loser. I think her just being like, I really want to be cool. And the way I can convince my dad is to act like a little girl and say, she's my best friend. But I also think it's really funny and cute. So right there, she just makes up the name Ivy.
Yeah, she doesn't even know her name.
No, she doesn't know her name. And then she says, your name is Ivy, by the way, before she gets into the car. And then she gets in the car.
And Ivy is kind of like, oh, okay, I like that.
Yeah, I think afterwards, like when they get somewhere, like, I don't know, they address it again like a couple minutes later. And she's like, oh, what is your name, by the way? And she says,
I like Ivy. Sort of gives me the chance to start over.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
So Ivy is not even her name. We know nothing about her.
I'm going to jump ahead by saying this, but the stupid sequels totally act like her name is Ivy. And I remember the first time I watched one of them, I was like, nope, I'm out. Her name wasn't Ivy. You're wrong.
and it's also like almost like throwaway.
Yeah.
Oh, he's like, what's her name? Ivy. Like she just kind of, she looks over at her tattoo, sees like Ivy wrapped around her cross and says Ivy.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And it makes sense for the character, I think. Like,
we don't really need to know about her background. We learn at little tidbits like that her mom was on drugs or whatever. Like when she was blasted, she had to drive her mom around. Like there, whatever she said. So we know that there was not a good
upbringing.
No.
I do love, and she pulls this more than once. She says like, oh, I get car sick. I have to sit in the front seat. And that's the probably the first like true little manipulation that she does. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get my way by doing this.
Mm-hmm. Although you don't know it yet.
Yeah, you don't. But I think when she pulls it again with after the tattoos, I'm like, oh, this is intentional.
Mm-hmm.
You little sneak.
Yep, absolutely.
And then I thought I made myself laugh with this little note, but the sprinklers turn on before she gets in the car and she gets all wet. And I was like, is this a foreshadowing that there is so much rain in this movie? Especially like this is LA and it rains constantly in this movie.
And weirdly, like LA does get a lot of rain sometimes, but to capture it that way, like do they actually say like it's Los Angeles? Do they like call it out?
No, but they talk about like street names and stuff like that. And like the view from the house is very clearly the LA skyline.
True. That's of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Actually, I had a thought when they show the skyline, off topic, but on topic, that Drew's house has such a cool view of like the skyline. And I like would be curious to kind of compare like what was her view versus what's the view from the house. I don't know.
Oh, that's a cool idea. We should do that.
Yeah.
Only nerds like us would get excited about that.
So just a little bit about like that moment in the car where she's in the front seat and, you know, Sylvie's in the back. She's like meeting the dad for the first time and like totally being flirty, like right away.
Oh, instantly. She does that cute little tongue stick out, which is so cute, except when you think about that she's like flirting with this old dude.
I think it's like because they're talking about having to get
like condoms for school.
And that they have to like learn how to be comfortable with asking for it. And it's like it's not like they want us to like mess around or anything. And then she's a little like tongue. And then she like has her shoes up on the dash in like this nice car. And I'm just like, ooh.
Oh yeah. Instantly making herself at home. Very much her. And then of course I was like, she loses her boots so many times in this movie. And I'm like, it's just like Cinderella later on. it was meant to be.
Yeah. So yeah, we've now been officially introduced to Ivy and her first little manipulations.
Yeah. All right. I titled this next part as Ivy comes over. I think it's like the next day and the girls kind of are walking home from school together. Ivy's learning about Coop's life and her dad. And I felt like Drew's real life pain about her own dad really came through in this part.
No, I think he really cares about you. My dad didn't want me anywhere around. He gets so pissed if you try to talk to him. He'd throw stuff at me like food or spitballs.
And it's like her own dad.
But I laughed at spitballs because it's so funny. But yeah, I know. I like when she was saying it, like it basically was like she had an abusive relationship with her dad, and you could almost pluck that out. And that line directly like is her experience.
And she's looking at this other girl who she thinks has everything. And
so beautiful. Where did you get it?
My dad.
He must really love you.
He gave you that little stuffed bear once, Drew.
That's true.
It's not funny.
Don't you forget. No.
So Sylvie starts telling some lies here. It's so embarrassing. Like she says she's half black and that he's not her real dad. And I'm just like, so much embarrassment for her.
But the only reason we know that is because she like is talking to her mom. And I forgot that. So when I read your note, I was like, what is she talking about? And then, they're like, did you tell your friend you're half black?
Yeah. And she also says that she like had tried to commit suicide, but really she like ran through like a glass window or something. It's just like she's trying so hard. It's so real to being a teenage girl.
Oh my God, it's painful. And yeah, she does it beautifully because it feels real and we feel that like,
yeah.
Yes. And then this is the first time we see the house, the Cooper house in Los Feliz, which we also got to visit. So this is one of the two locations that we visited. Of course, Lindsay Blake helped find the address.
Yep. Lindsay, if I'm not a stalker, I think I also tasked her with this one. We were just talking over on Patreon about how I asked her to find one of Drew's houses. And I think I also asked her to find this. And of course she succeeded like she always does. I remember it took us so long to get there that day. It was like one of the stupidest LA traffic days. It was like 2 miles away and it took us like an hour or something insane like that.
Yeah, I feel like I remember like it's not even that far up a road. Like it's not like far off a beaten path. Every time we've gone to do like 2 locations in LA,
it takes forever. Yeah. But I do remember like seeing the balcony was so cool because the house mostly looks very similar. We have photos on our website, thedrewsium.com/locations. You can see our pictures, and we always like to kind of put them next to screenshots from the movie. But yeah, this was really neat. There's some slight differences, but for the most part, it looks very, very similar.
Yeah. Like we stood in the spot where basically Drew and Cheryl Ladd both fell and died. Yeah,
that's right.
Because it's like right there.
Yeah.
I guess it's also the spot where like Fred, the dog, is like going back and forth, is right in front of that. And that's street side. It's not like a private space.
Yeah, it's right there. You don't have to trespass.
Yes, exactly.
So the girls are becoming friends. This is where it feels like pretty authentic. Like I don't think Ivy is like, oh, I'm gonna just totally take over this girl's life. I think they're having fun together. The music gets very cheesy here. There's a lot of cheesy music, as I said before, but I always feel like this is like, we're becoming friends, like this little song.
And it sort of like starts to twinkle in a little bit. Like I feel like in that scene, because there's sort of like an awkward, like Ivy is like gonna leave, and then she sort of like half-heartedly turns away.
Yes.
And then like turns back. It's such a like, I don't know.
Like, do you want to come over? I don't want to be friends.
Yeah, me neither. It's like very
yeah. Did you crack up when Ivy comes into the house and plays the piano? I'm like, this girl does not know how to play the piano like this.
Honestly, it sounded to me like they pressed a like pre-programmed keyboard piano like really quickly and then turned it off. But she's supposed to be like playing like
But I guess the point is that it wakes up the mom, or it brings the mom around.
Okay, that's why they had to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sylvie's mom is talking to her kind of privately about Ivy. She's like, the way she describes her cracks me up. She's like, she's got a naked woman with a sword on her jacket or something like that.
Is that someone who you want to spend time with? Or something like that. Yeah.
She says like, what do you think that says to the boys? And then Sylvie's like, try anything funny and I'll cut your dick off.
I loved that. I love that she looks at her mom like, yeah, that's good, right? Like we do want guys to know to try anything funny. Like this is the person I want to protect me, mom.
Yeah, right.
Oops, except Ivy's just gonna destroy everything. Spoiler alert.
But of course, Ivy is like lurking and hears this and walks in and is like, oh, I'm causing a problem. And she really ingratiates herself to this mom in such a good way. Like, I really love this scene. I think Drew is so good in this. I know this was used on like a talk show for like the clip that they pulled. Yeah, I'm really a fan of this part.
I hope that when I die, I'll have owned a sports car, had a family, a home. My mom died an old lady who never did anything with the top down. One day with the top down is better than a lifetime in a box.
The one day with the top down is better than a lifetime in a box is so sweet, but it's also like she kind of is, I think she sees the picture of the mom with the car.
Yeah.
That ends up coming into play later. And she's like making this observation, but she's also like taking notes. That's the thing about like Ivy is like mentioning the car with the top down, like all that feels very like, you know.
She even says like, I bet you drove it with the top down, even in the rain. Like you're right. She's like noting all these things. She even notes the dress the mom is wearing in that photo with the car. But yeah, I guess we didn't mention the mom is bedridden.
Yes.
Essentially. Like, is she actually sick? She has like emphysema or something. It's very questionable.
Yeah, her breathing gets really, but she like, they show her smoking on the patio and she's having like a breathing problem.
Yeah.
So
as Sylvie says at one point, she spends her life dying. Like Sylvie's definitely like, doesn't really buy it, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, she does say, I think after her mom dies, something like, spoiler alert also, that she's like, I thought she was faking.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be hard if your mom was sick like the whole time you were, I don't know. All right. So now Ivy just kind of casually just starts living there.
Pretty much the way she puts her feet up in the car, she puts her whole life into this house. Like, I'm just going to be here now.
And she's just like sleeping in the same bed with Coop. And I think that there's some great voiceover that kind of says like, and then Ivy just moved in, you know, it's like,
basically
it just happened.
I always loved, there's this really quick shot where she's wearing this like black and white sort of tank striped dress.
I do love that.
And her hair's up in a different way. And it's so brief, but she's like putting on the fake tattoo. But I've always loved, it's such a quick moment, but I've always loved it.
Yeah.
It always feels special.
I love a stripe.
Me too, especially black and white.
And it looks so cute on her. And it's different than other stuff. It feels like almost not Ivy. Like,
it does. And one thing I like about this movie is that the wardrobe is reused, which I always appreciate that for feeling more authentic and real. And you definitely see the same pieces used throughout this movie, which feels good. It's genuine.
Yeah, you point out that Ivy is so rude to the dad while she's sunbathing, and like, right away she just acts like she owns the place. Like she's just
she's like, you're blocking my sun, like, or something like that. Maybe she doesn't say that, but that's the attitude.
Then her shoes fall in the water, but they just are like so precariously just like at the edge of the pool, like it's like, or whatever it is, like the fountain.
Like a fountain. Yeah, super rude. And then, you know, she's like, those boots cost $150. And then he's like, oh, he's such a dork in this part. He's like so excited about her out there in her little tied up top. And he gives her the money and she's like playing sort of like a tug of war with it. And he's like, like he's like freaking out.
God. Yeah, he has such a little boy like grin on his face. Yeah. It's so, oh God. But it has like, I think the cringe adds to it in a weird way.
Yes, I do too. Definitely. If he was like smooth about it,
it would feel gross. I don't know.
That's one thing. I have a note later on that sort of feels less gross because his character is uncomfortable the entire time. He's like miserable about this. He's never like, yes, I'm going to go for this girl. Like, and yes, he has the power dynamic. He's the man. He's the older person, but he is really just like succumbing to it and like unhappy to do it. I don't know. I feel like that helps with the grossness.
I saw your note and maybe we'll just discuss it more then. Cause I was like, really? I don't know.
Like he's so unhappy about it all.
Yeah. I feel like I had another thought about the boots. I think he says like, keep the change because he gives me like a little bit of extra money or something. It's like, dude, oh my God. I mean, I guess he probably just thinks this is their exchange. It's going to be silly and and she's being flirty. Why, you know?
Yeah, maybe
getting a little thrill out of it.
Oh, yes. So then we get basically, this is like the first, I think, two very obvious ploys on Ivy's part. Like there's no question that she's doing something underhanded with these. Like if you go back later, you can sort of see snippets, but she took that money and then she just goes and gets the boots and dumps the water out. So like, cool.
I don't think I really ever fully grasped that until I saw, and I was like, oh yeah. Like, I think I realized, she pours the water out of her boot and puts it on, but I just didn't, even though it's right before, I didn't realize like, oh, she just got the money to replace boots that she's keeping anyway.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And then there's a phone call to Sylvie's phone. And so it's kind of confusing. I think because I've watched it so many times, I understand, but Sylvie volunteers for this group called Head Start. With like inner city children where she helps them read essentially. That's like
she like helps tutor and
So there's a phone call from that group and they're saying, hey, can you help out on this particular night? And she looks at the calendar and on that night is the dad's having a big work party.
And it has like totally in like big bold writing, dad's birthday.
Yeah. Like Sylvie's actually excited about it. And she says, oh yeah, she can totally do it. Yep. I'm putting it on the calendar. And that's when you're like, oh,
I think she says that day's totally clear.
Yeah. She's up to no good.
And again, the little charm is on. So she's like, nope, got it here. Like wrote it down. I feel like on the other end, they're like, do you need to call and remind her? Or should we like, oh God.
Don't call again.
Yeah. So how far are we into the movie? And she's already just pulling it over and over again.
Yeah. My last note is that this poor maid, she
God.
is just like so over this family shit.
I think that part, they like break an espresso machine and it just like explodes and like
and
somebody
she's just
else.
Like, sigh.
Oh my God. They're just wreaking havoc on the kitchen.
Yeah.
Now we jump to them getting a tattoo. I don't even remember how that happens. I think they decided to ditch school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sylvie's like, let's do something that'll make my parents crazy or something like that. And I was like, oh, I know what we can go do.
Yeah. And then he's already in the middle of tattooing her when he asks her if she's of age.
Oh, this guy is so disgusting. Like you would never put this guy in a movie these days, like with how gross he is. And it's pointless too. Why do we have to have this guy be so nasty with them?
Yeah, he like drinks a little bit of beer and like spits it on their tattoo. Like, oh, it's so bad.
And he's talking about like a tattoo of a penis. He's just disgusting. But I thought it was cute that he asks her like, are you sure you're 18 or something? And she says, I'm 22. And I was like, oh, her lucky number. We love when that shows up.
I love that she just goes, and she's 30 over to Sylvie. And I'm almost like, I would almost believe that. That was like something about it. Like they don't look 15 or 16 or however old they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
That scene is just, it's cringy, but it's supposed to be. It's like one of those things where like, we're like, they're like putting themselves into this situation so they can do something to get in trouble. They're definitely rebelling. I also remember she says like she needs $40 for the tattoo. I was like, wow.
That's so cheap.
Yeah, it is.
So they get in a fight. The girls get in a fight because basically Sylvie sort of insinuates like, oh, I'm not the type to get a tattoo.
Friendship. Please. Look, I'm just not the type.
Oh, what's that supposed to mean?
Nothing.
Oh, but I am? Low class? You rich little bitch with your socially acceptable rebellion. What am I, just another one of your inner city charity cases? Gee, I'm so sorry.
What?
That you don't have to teach me to read. Must break your heart.
So this fight escalates so fast, like instantly they are being so mean to each other.
And the thing I loved about it is when I saw your note, I had just passed that scene and I was like, what fight?
Yeah, because it's over almost instantly too.
That's how short it was. And the money tug that you mentioned between the father and Ivy, she kind of does it with Sylvie too.
But in this way, she like instantly gets Sylvie to be like, all right, I forgive you, fight over.
She just melts.
Yeah, because Ivy's just so damn cute.
Yep.
So then they get in the truck of this guy. They hitchhike home. Okay.
Casual.
The rebellion continues. And this guy that drives the truck, just drinking and driving casually, like turns around. And he's like, I got my beer here as I'm driving you guys.
Well, and Drew is like, or Ivy is drinking with him.
Of course.
In the front.
Yep. And then if there's that song that plays during this, I think there was like no budget for real music in this movie.
Oh,
a lot of the songs are like the same band and they're like fake. You know what I mean? Like they're not songs you'd actually hear on the radio.
They feel that way.
They feel fake.
Are you just saying this? Are you saying
no? I like looked at the credits. It's the same band, quote unquote.
Have they ever released any real music?
I didn't go that far with it, but I'm gonna guess
it
no.
Feels weird. Like it does feel low budge.
Yeah,
music.
Totally. Yeah,
for sure. Because I feel like if we put a different soundtrack to this, okay, if you're out there and you want to re-edit Poison Ivy with better music,
yeah. I feel like it'd be like Guns N' Roses is very of this time and look.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the budget for that.
Yeah, the score is fine. That part has to stay. Yeah. It's just the soundtrack. The needle drops need to be real needle drops, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
So I didn't realize that this scene, because it was in the version I watched, that the scene where Ivy calls Cooper beautiful was not on the VHS.
Yeah, this is so weird. So it's a quick little scene. She says she's beautiful. It's not on the VHS. It's on the DVD. But then I remembered on the VHS, I don't know if it's in the exact same place or not, but there's a scene on the VHS that's not on the DVD.
Okay.
And hopefully you remember this, but basically like Ivy's on the steps of the house inside, and the dad comes up the stairs and he's like caught off guard. It's like at night and he's not wearing his toupee, and he's like all embarrassed that she sees him like that. And she says like, oh, it's okay. I like fuzzy things like snowballs. That ringing a bell?
I don't remember that at all.
I wonder if we could find it on YouTube.
I was just going to say, have you seen it recently or you just remember it?
Totally just going off memory. Yeah.
Oh my God, I do not remember that. I also had to note that in that part, because Cooper says, maybe I'll dye my hair blonde. And then Ivy says something like, you'll look like a scangy hoe.
Yeah. Scangy was just the thing, I guess. And then I just had a note that the mom on the balcony with like the curtains and their nightgown are all blowing all over, and the music, it's such a vibe.
Mm-hmm. And I made a note here, like, is that one of the themes?
Yeah, I feel like that's the mom's theme.
Yeah.
Sylvie like comes in at that point. Well, she thinks her mom is going to jump. She's standing on the balcony and she's kind of thinking about it. You can tell. Mm-hmm. And Sylvie comes in and like gets her down. But yeah, Sylvie's awkwardness with her mom in that scene is just, it felt so real and sad. And you're just like, man, her parents are not there for her. Like, it might look like it to Ivy that she has a mom and a dad and it's so great, but they're both like pretty neglectful and shitty.
Yeah, they don't have like good relationships with her.
No.
So yeah, here we go. We're going to jump to this party that was supposed to be like basically co-hosted with Sylvie.
Yeah, and she's like excited, like when she comes down with her hair in that like low ponytail thing.
Yeah, like almost like a low loose braid with like a red bow in it, and she has like a cute
pilgrim dress.
Yes. And the guy from Head Start comes to the door, like, "What are you doing? You're not ready." And then they find out, it's revealed that Ivy has, messed up her schedule, and now she has to go
accidentally,
quote unquote, accidentally.
Yeah.
And here we go. So Ivy's plan worked. But who knows, like, what was she thinking was going to happen?
I think she just was like, I'll get her out of the house and I'll be here alone. Like, I really think that was the plan. And the dad he's a little too excited when she's like, oh, I'll help out. I can serve drinks and do whatever.
Little bit too much like smirking and like almost like half winking between them. Like, we got it.
Yep. But that appearance in that red sequin dress is so classic. It's so iconic. It's like, everything.
They pan from feet to head slowly until they get to her face. Yeah, we have to talk about that hair. It's like it's so classic 90s.
Oh my gosh. Every like 1991 through 94 magazine I had a lot of teen, and I feel like that French twist was like the epitome of like sophisticated hairstyle, and like I couldn't recreate it at all. I remember trying.
I have always been so bad at updos.
Yeah, same.
Like, it's something that I would love to, like, it's such a sophisticated thing. Yeah, like this is one of many like updo. I shouldn't say many, but there are a couple updos that Ivy has that just make her look twice her age.
Well, and that's like the first time, right? Like, she's got the like perm and the roots all throughout up until now. And now she's like all of a sudden sort of looking like the mom.
Yeah.
Like, she even says, people said I looked like you all night. Like, I shouldn't have worn your dress. She's, of course, being manipulative, but
yeah. But yes, they pan up to Drew's face, and then she says,
"Hello, Mr. Cooper. Care for anything?"
And then there's that exchange because he's supposed to be sober. And then
again, another manipulation.
But it's like a little play, and then it comes back later again. So he like secretly drinks, and
like she basically gets the ball rolling with that for him.
Good job, Ivy.
So the party ends. and she's like dancing by herself in the shadows. And he comes in and she does a little shoulder shimmy and goes over to him and kind of dancing on him, I guess. And then the lights come on and poor Georgie, the mom, has like tried to do her hair and get dressed for this party way too late. It's so sad. And she calls it immediately. She's like, oh, I see what's going on here. Like, I think she says like, so glad Sylvie found herself a little friend or something like that.
Yeah. And my note was master manipulator, because right away that when Georgie comes in, Ivy is able to convince her that he just needed a hug.
Yeah. She's like already has the lie ready to go.
And I feel like that's even when she says he really misses you or something.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's so
devious.
So devious. And it's such a quick, she came up with that. Like, it was just like so natural for her to be like,
yeah, I got a cover for this. No problem. I'll get out of this one.
Don't worry, I got us.
Ooh, yep. And then, oh my God. So she gives the mom a drink. Like, I'm sure you need this. Again, like they're by themselves and she comes in and, you know, she's lurking once again. And almost instantly, Georgie passes out. And the first time I saw this, I thought she killed her. Like, I thought she had drugged her drink and killed her because it's so abrupt. She just goes from like being wide awake to like,
And also I can only imagine like she's on a lot of medication and they show her like popping pills every once in a while. It seems like secretly. So I'm like, that can't pair well with alcohol.
Nope. And I'm sure Ivy knows that.
Yep. And she's like, you're right, like out like almost immediately. And then Ivy just sits on the edge of the bed, casually just lures over the dad, Daryl.
While the mom is there, right there on the bed. It's so ballsy. She doesn't give a fuck. Like, she does not care. And they have like their first little sexual encounter right there.
There's a lot of moaning and heads back and
and saxophone
and lots of saxophone. I couldn't help but notice all the close-ups were her hands. Like it's actually like, and you know, that's weird to point out, but it's not, because I feel like I do point out when they aren't. You know, like I notice. And so like,
I was watching for like, is this a double? And then they like pulled away and it was Drew. And I was like, wow, she really had to do all this with him.
She, like all the like rubbing her hands through his like, you know, graying hair. It was well done. It was like, but it felt, it's very 90s because of the music. Also like the way it's shot, it's like almost grease lens.
Yeah. It's very like late night Cinemax.
Exactly. Like they're not really showing anything, but it's very implying of like all this like, stuff. So there's their first encounter right next to Sleepy Mom.
Oof.
Sheesh. So that sets a tone.
And it also sets a tone. Like, I almost feel like from this point on, I don't think Sylvie knows what's going on, but she starts getting a little resentful of Ivy from here on out. Like they're not really getting along after this.
It has to be that she thinks it's just related to the schedule. I'm sure she's thinking, what did I do to Ivy for her to do that to me intentionally?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they show them maybe in bed that night. And there is some kind of like, she like shoves her over. Like, it's like, that's right. It's subtle at that point.
Oh, she gets home and her dog is sleeping with Ivy and she's kind of pissed about that because she's very territorial of her dog.
So the first time we see Fred kind of spending time with Ivy.
No, Fred, come here. Poor Fred. We'll get to that.
Fred. So the next day they show Ivy like go into the garage and she's just sort of poking around and she's getting treats for Fred, which is one of the things you start to understand. Like that's why he likes her so much.
Yeah, one of her tricks.
Yeah, she's giving him treats. But she's in the garage and she like runs her finger along the car. And there's something so like cool and like villainous about that to me. Like it feels very like, it's plotting.
Like this is going to be mine.
Exactly. Like it's a plotting thing. Yeah.
She even gets in the car at that point and like is listening to the radio, right?
Oh yeah. They have this whole thing where she like drops the treat on the ground, then goes under the car, finds the key magnetically attached to the bottom of the car and then gets in. So it's a whole like, series of events. The dog treat had to lead to her dropping it. But it also sets up that there will be more stuff in the car and more stuff with the dog. So
definitely.
It's like the scenes are actually like, okay, they needed that. And
well, yeah. So Sylvie catches her in the car and she's pissed about it. She's like, why are you in my mom's car? And she's in a bad mood about this Fred thing. So then they get in this fight about the dog, Fred. And at first Ivy's like, this is so dumb. Like, come on. But then she can't help herself. She gets that little competitive, like, this is all going to be mine. And they start basically calling the poor little dog back and forth. Poor Fred.
Go ahead, keep calling him. Fred. Oh, Fred. God damn it, Fred, I called you. Fred, come here. No, Fred, come here. No, Fred, come here. Fred, I called you. Come here, Fred. Fred, get your fuzzy ass over here.
It's so funny, but also like, again, it's telling us something about what the competition is like feeling like for Cooper. Like,
yeah. And then Ivy can't let her win. So she shakes her. I always love this. She puts her hand in her pocket where the treats are, does this really subtle little shake. And Fred comes over and she's like, hey, yeah, that's right. I won. And you're just like, ooh.
And then she's like, good boy.
Yeah. That's very villainy too.
Yes. Totally.
So then it's like this sad, like, we're not friends anymore. More of that really fake music plays, that fake rock.
And it was kind of perfect because it's like a montage and they show like Sylvie walking and then looking at how her tattoo is healing because she and her friend are fighting. Like, then she like goes to that place where the swing is. And I like your note.
Well, she's like, maybe I can be cool like Ivy and go on the swing. And no, I can't do it. And then this couple comes and jumps on it. And that the woman always stood out to me. Like, she looks like a gymnast. Yeah. And also I was like, she's got to be like someone who did stunts on the movie because it's just too like perfect. And I looked her up and she was a gymnast. So I thought that was really cool.
I just made a note. I'm like, totally, because I read your note and then I looked at it. I was like, she looks like a gymnast flashcard.
Like what you would say, that's a gymnast.
Yeah, like I feel like she has like a tight ponytail, like strong legs, really short shorts. Like you can tell she has a very muscular like body.
Oh, we should mention her name. It's Brigitte Shear. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Probably not, but shout out to her for being such an obvious gymnast.
And they like flip around on the swing. Like it's no big deal. It's very, very funny. So now, let's jump into right before the rain in the woods scene. Famous.
Yeah. The one that we have more stills in our digital archives from that scene than anything else, which just shows you like all the kind of pervy magazines that must have wanted them.
Yep.
I digress. So the dad shows up at the school to pick up the girls and he's like harassing Ivy right in front of the school, like in total view of everybody. I'm just like, dude, this is a bad look. Like you are not hiding this well.
Yeah. So I think the only reason he can get away with it is because he is Sylvie's dad, whatever. But yeah, Sylvie's not here.
Yeah.
And then she still gets in the car anyway. And
he's just like pissed at her because she gives him a look like, ooh, are we gonna do it? He's just like, don't. And then he tells her to get out of the car.
Oh yeah.
And she doesn't. And he says, you heard me. And she's like, I hurt you. Oh, did I hurt you? And he just like gives in. But like I said, he's so miserable about this.
That is true. That part is weird because, I mean, that part where she's like asking if she hurt him, it's like, is she just like breaking down all his walls by asking that? Is that like, it's all it was? Because I was like, what is this? Like, it's just, and it was almost so like, okay, it seems like he wants her to leave. And she's just trying to change the topic.
Yeah. And it works. It works. She got what she wanted. They go hide in the woods in the rain. Of course, it's raining.
That kind of makes it feel a little bit less weird to you because you feel like he's like really Like
I just appreciate that he's not like excited about it. I don't know.
True. Until he's too excited to turn back. Am I right?
Yeah.
There are some really cool parts, like pictures of her face. I also love that it's raining. Like there's some really cool stuff about this scene that have nothing to do with what's actually happening in the scene.
Yeah. Well, one of them is, I don't know if your quality was good enough, but I noticed that you can totally see all her ear piercings, and you can't see them very often in her life, but you can really see how many she has in that scene.
I took a lot of screenshots, and I think I'd noticed that before, because when I saw it again, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this angle and seeing that before. It's something about the light, like the way it's hitting her.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. All right, so they have their little encounter in the woods. All the magazines loved it.
The setting is cool.
True. And that's where I think that's where the body double was used. That was the scene.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Okay, so we cut back to the house. It's later on, and once again, the mom is sort of doing her little balcony, wishing I could jump, but I'm not going to jump thing. I love Drew in the pink slip she's wearing. It's like I don't know if it's a slip, but it's like got that vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like silky.
It's silky for sure.
It's such a pretty color on her with her hair color in that scene. I just have always loved it. Like I love photos from it, which are few and far between.
Yeah, she does look gorgeous in that.
I just love this scene. I think that Drew plays this really well. Like, you don't really get the sense that Ivy went in there like, I'm going to go kill the mom now. It just, the opportunity shows up. And before she even realizes what she's doing, she pushes her off the balcony. And she instantly looks freaked out. Like, holy shit, what did I just do? Like, I really appreciate that's sort of what she's talking about in all these descriptions of Ivy. Like, there's shading, right? Like, we like Ivy. She's not just one-dimensional evil slut. Like, homicidal slut, as Drew called her. She's not like feeling great about what she did, and she's really freaked out. And I love her faces in those scenes, those expressions where you can really tell all the things she's going through.
You're right. Yeah. And it's sort of, I guess we can think of it as like the dad feels bad about the shitty things he's doing. And you can also see some some emotion on her face.
Yeah.
But she literally kills the mom.
Yeah. So let's not sugarcoat it. She still did a really bad thing.
But it also was like, yeah, it could be easily covered up by the fact that the mom has sort of not threatened,
flirted with this. Yeah.
Flirted with jumping off. And I think Sylvie has seen her like standing really close to the edge, and they don't show anything. They don't show the mom's body, but then you see Sylvie come in, and then she goes downstairs. We just have to like imagine, okay, she found her. Then they jump to the funeral where Drew again, like looks amazing, but looks like she's about 40.
She's got like that French braid going on. Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say, like, there's an updo happening. I feel like her dress is like, it's black, but it's got like strappy, like it's kind of sexy.
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
I've always liked that part too. Anytime she looks like very different, like one little scene where it's like, oh, she never looks like that in the rest of the movie. I guess those are things always like catch my interest.
Yep.
And then after the funeral, I totally forgot that Ivy just like goes and sleeps in the mom's bed right off the bat.
Casually.
Like, the ball's on this girl. And then she gets caught by Coop. And again, a great Sara Gilbert delivery.
You're in my mother's bed.
I just love it.
Right after that, they just start to snuggle in bed together.
Yeah, because of course, Ivy, like, again, gets out of it.
And then just like insists that Sylvie pretend that she's her mom and talk to her. And there's something like that feels like say the things to me that you couldn't say to your mom when she was alive. Like there's something like she is being a friend, but she's also like, I'm literally in your mom's bed, probably wearing your mom's clothes.
I wanted to talk to her, you know. Tell her stuff before she died. Tell me. What? Pretend I'm her. Come on. I'm your mom. I don't know what to say. Well, what couldn't you say to me? Come on, I'm Georgie.
And I think she even like responds as if she's her.
Oh,
like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's intense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At what point does like good friendship become just way overstepping? This is it.
Yeah. Great way to put it.
Yeah.
Then we get the classic car crash scene. So once again, we're back to the car. This time Cooper's like washing it, and she's like thinking about her mom, and like that would be a nice way to honor her, I guess, is by washing this car that meant so much to her. And then Ivy shows up, like she's like looming in the background, like, come on, let's go for a ride, all three of us.
And when they get in the car, I loved that. I just love, because I love rain, but so does Drew. So Cooper basically just like says it might rain, and Ivy's response, "One can always hope," I just liked. Like, cause I mean, we know she liked to do it in the rain. You're right. There's a lot of rain in this.
I also think she's like embodying the mom, Georgie, in some way, because she knows she loves to drive with the top down. So she's like really wants to become this woman.
True. And she also like, it seemed like she, like we said earlier, she was taking notes and collecting sort of like this fantasy person.
Yeah.
And then kind of becoming her.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's really well done. I really like this movie still. I was like, ooh, I haven't watched it in a while. Is it going to hold up? It holds up.
Yeah. It is like Drew's acting is strong. The storyline could be worse. Like at least there's a storyline.
Yeah, it's low budget, it's a little cheesy, but like it works. It's good. Yeah. It knows what it is, and it's really good at it.
That's true.
I always loved Drew in this orange dress. You called it marigold, which I think is even a better way to describe it.
Yeah, because it's like almost like got a lot more yellow in it, but marigold totally is like a light orange. Yeah, it's like a very specific orange.
And I didn't double check it, but I mentioned it earlier. I'm pretty positive this is what the mom is wearing in the picture with the car that you see at the beginning. So it's, again, she noted it. She's like, I'll wear that later when I kill her and we go around with her urn.
Yeah, but it is such a good dress.
Oh, and so like thoughtful that it has the cutout on the chest, which comes into play later. Like, great touch.
Yeah, exactly. Right where a steering wheel would hit approximately.
I was laughing so Ivy drives, and I was laughing because I feel like she drives kind of similarly to how we always hear Drew does, which she even says in that clip we listened to earlier. She got her license taken away on this movie.
Yep. And while I was watching that part, which you can see, see you mentioned the stunt driver later, but you can definitely see like every time they show the back, it's like, that's not Drew.
Yeah.
But also I'm like, where did they film this? Because it really feels like a canyon road, like in LA. Like it could be like any canyon roads. Like I want to look it up, but I'm so curious.
Maybe Lindsay can get to that one for us.
Yeah. I don't think that when Ivy is supposed to be singing the melody of the piano, I don't think it's Drew doing it.
I don't either. It doesn't sound like it's so weirdly over da 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 da. Like, that's not Drew.
But also, like, you can tell they were like, don't make it sound perfect.
Yeah.
But it just did not sound like Drew. Like, if it was Drew, I could just see her like over and over trying, and they're just like,
we're gonna get somebody to dub that one. Also, I noticed, speaking of her voice, that it crackles when she starts yelling at Cooper, and it reminded me of how you love that part in Mad Love where she screams and
come on, she was about to kill herself. She must have said something. Why wouldn't you tell me what my mother said? Please stop! Babe, I want to hear you say it. Are you accusing me of something? Why did you do something? Everybody always ends up blaming me. I thought you were different. I thought that we were real friends.
It sounds so much like it. Like right away, I was like hearing that Mad Love scene in my head.
Like, it's just another little tidbit we get of what life was like before this for her.
Mm-hmm. She's being way overly defensive to this thing and yelling and being and making her drive more dangerously.
Yeah. And then like I had to crack up because, again, this is probably the best quality I've ever watched this movie. And you can totally see the stunt driver's face. And so like I paused it. I accidentally paused it and I sent it to you. I was like, this is so creepy. It's like not true at all. And I looked at the stunt driver. Her name is Debbie Evans. She does a ton of stunt driving. And randomly enough, she did stunts for Demi Moore in Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. So
oh, cool.
I love that people always like come back around. Hollywood's a small place.
Yeah. And when people are in industry and they're good, they stick in the industry for a while. That's true.
I don't know if you noticed this, but I feel like I used to notice this a lot so they crash the car and Ivy wakes up and her hair is like tucked behind and you can't see the full length of it. And it's perfectly tucked exactly at the length it is in Gun Crazy. Like she looks straight out of Gun Crazy. We'll have to pull one of your caps for that one.
I haven't noticed that before, but I love when that stuff happens when it's like when things are cropped to just her face. And it's like, oh,
that looks just like this.
But like how close did those film together?
Yeah.
Really close.
It's probably a matter of maybe months, like maybe even shorter than that. I think they're so back to back. Yeah, it's pretty neat to think about.
Crazy.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about Gun Crazy one day. We'll get there.
Yeah, we will. So now let's get into when after the car crash, Sylvie just has to escape from the hospital. I mean, okay, so her dad comes to visit her in the hospital.
Oh, such a jerk. Such a jerk. He's just like pissed at her for crashing the car. No concern for her well-being. Like she has a concussion.
But he thinks that she was driving because Ivy, the master manipulator, put her in the driver's seat. Yeah. So I guess we got to just take that step back and talk about that. The fact that happened, we just kind of bowled over it because if you've seen the movie, we're just talking about it. That's right. So so I'm just like, why does she have to escape the hospital? Like,
I think, we know she's like hallucinating and a little delirious, right?
Mm-hmm. She keeps seeing her mother everywhere.
And she knows now that Ivy might be responsible for her mom's death. So there's a sense of urgency of like, I have to go get her, I guess. But she's not making a lot of sense because she's totally out of it.
Yeah, because then she gets there and then sees her mom's. Well, let's talk about how she gets there, first of all.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot how long this escape goes on. I'm like, she's like going in the elevator and she's sneaking past the nurses and she's in like an alleyway.
It had like that parts of it felt like when they're escaping in Mad Love, when they're escaping the mental institution, like going around like here's staff and they're like sneaking by.
Totally. It's funny how like probably because Drew's not in that part, it just like isn't in my memory as much. Yeah. So I was like, wow, this like goes on forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did always love the goth dude that picks up Sylvie. She's like sitting in the rain.
I'm very curious about him. Like, I'm like, is that guy like actually like a musician? He just like is himself.
Him. He's credited as Death Rocker. Okay.
I also didn't realize that he like gives her clothes because she comes home and she's not in the gown.
Yeah, he even says like
I stole those. I hope you enjoy the digs. I stole those too, or something like that. Right. But I just didn't even think about it because that's not the focus in the scene. Because wham, she comes home and finds her dad and Ivy, but she's imagining that it's her mother being like railed by her dad.
On the piano.
But I was also like, wait, this is supposed to be Drew. And I thought this was the part with the body double because it's Cheryl Ladd.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they like, she turns around and it's Ivy and she realizes that Sylvia's there.
And she's walking in on her old dad's butt too. It's brutal. Poor Sylvie.
Yep. And she just like slowly continues to walk in. Because she thinks she's seeing her mom.
Because she can't believe what she's seeing. Yeah. So she runs out. Of course, dad has to go chase her. Pouring rain at this part.
Of course.
So we'll explain why. But I was trying to figure out if pretty much at this point when Ivy runs out after him, if this is where she's actually wearing a wig. It's wet because of the rain, but I started looking for it here and I did feel like her layer length seemed a little off. So I don't know if this is where it starts or not, but that was my guess. The cool thing is that Elle magazine, they did a feature on Drew in 1991. It's not a covered feature, but they were on set during this scene and they know about how Drew is like freezing, which of course she's always cold. So I can only imagine with all this rain on her.
But she looks beautiful. I mean, if there's any, like the scene turned out good. I just had to note it's so sad that Sylvie keeps hallucinating.
I know, she thinks her dog is like the urn with her mom's remains in it.
Yes.
It is very sad.
Yes.
But Ivy like goes up to the mom's room. Oh, because the dad's going to go drive and look for Sylvie. That's why. So she's like, I'll just go upstairs and put on more of mom's clothes. I'm going to put on this robe because that's what I do now. And Sylvie comes in and again thinks she's seeing her mom. It's actually Ivy. And then this is when the kiss happens. The big overblown kiss.
Is there a kiss earlier in the movie too? Or was I just like waiting for the big, I don't know.
I think there's like a very brief like peck. But this is the like tongues and we just went for it. And, over and over again, it's spoken about and it's so not a big deal.
It's pretty mild.
By today's standards.
Yeah. But also when was it in Movie Line 92?
Yeah. A lot about it.
So I think they're kind of saying like how embarrassed they felt like the crew was because they were going all for it. So I guess we were getting like the behind the scenes of what they were filming and what they actually cut to us is like, all right, that's mild. So who knows?
Yeah. She also talks about it in some like TV interviews. So, I mean, this was just a different time where that was a huge deal and it's like nothing now.
Girls kissing. Can you imagine?
It's like 1 second of screen time.
Yeah, it's very little. Yeah.
Okay, so we're at the end. Mm-hmm. Originally, the character of Ivy was written to live at the end of the movie. She's supposed to get away with it all. It was going to have her leaving the Cooper's house at the end and hitchhiking to quote, this is from Cat Shay, find her next victim, which is, and you almost wonder, has she done something like this before? Maybe not committed murder, but infiltrated herself into somebody's lives. And Cat Shay fought for that ending. But New Line Cinema decided that Ivy needed to die. She needed to pay. So this is why they had to do reshoots. Apparently they didn't even film an ending at first.
Oh.
According to Cat Shay. So they had to reshoot months later. Drew had already cut her hair for Gun Crazy. And that's why there had to be a wig. Apparently it was a very expensive wig, she said.
Oh.
So just that's like a pretty cool thing to think about. It's crazy that they would have wrapped the film without like an ending.
Yeah, but I mean, who knows? Maybe they were just like, if we have to end it vaguely with her just disappearing, who knows what they thought. But it's so interesting that I wonder how much studios can dictate endings. Like we hear stories of studios doing it. I mean,
especially like, I think this is Cat Shay's directorial debut.
Okay.
So like she didn't probably have any power to, get the ending she wanted, which is sad.
True.
But I like the ending,
Yeah, me too.
Even though I'm always bummed that she dies because that damn necklace, which always looks so cheap to me, that necklace. It's funny that they make such a big deal out of it.
Yeah, it also kind of looks like the like Titanic necklace, doesn't it?
Yeah, the blue sparkling, totally. But yeah, the damn necklace does her in. She's holding on to it and it breaks because it's cheap.
It sure does and looks cheap.
Yeah.
When that scene was coming up, of course, I thought of when we talked to Lee Waddell.
Yeah, in our Scream episode, when we'll explain why.
Lee Waddell, who's a stuntman, he participated in her death stunt in this, like Drew landing on the ground from the balcony. And he said that she like did it so many times that it made him uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he say something to that effect? But the reason it's relevant, the reason we're bringing him up is because he would later be the stuntman who would be Ghostface when Drew was being killed in Scream.
Which we didn't even know when we interviewed him for our Scream episode. It's our episode 10. I saw that he had done stunts on Poison Ivy and I was so excited to talk to him about it. But when we found out he's like the one that does her death in both, I'm like, that's pretty cool. What a weird thing to claim to fame.
Yeah, that was so cool.
Yeah, so that's really fun if you guys want to hear that. We also have the full uncut interview with him on our YouTube if you want to check that out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I also, it's still blown away that episode 10 was our Scream episode.
I know, so long ago. And now we're finally getting to Poison Ivy on number 83.
Oh my God. Yes.
But man, she really does smack the ground with her face. And I'm just like, she is a trooper. She is so professional and gets it done because, man, it looks painful.
Yeah. And I made a note because in her hand is the sparkling gem. She's a gold digger till the end.
Oh, yeah. The heart of the ocean.
Perfect little bow on Miss Poison Ivy.
Yep. And that's our movie.
The beginning and end of her story.
We do end with Cooper's voiceover saying, like, I think I'll always love her, like, you know, which I think is cool because what a complicated thing for that poor girl, the trauma she just went through.
Yep.
Hope you're okay, Coop, wherever you are.
Yep. And yeah, she literally watches her fall off the balcony and breaks the necklace that she's wearing. It's trauma, young girl.
I miss her.
All right, so let's talk about the release and the legacy of Poison Ivy and then wrap this episode up. So this iconic film.
Yeah, the red carpet premiere was in LA on May 4th. Drew attended with Jamie Walters, her boyfriend / fiance at the time. And her mother, Jade, was there too. Sharon Stone went to that premiere, which I always thought was cool. You know, they did Irreconcilable Differences together, right? Like, I always forget that. I think it's Sharon Stone's debut.
I totally forget that because the timeline seems wrong.
Totally. Yeah. And they're not in a lot of scenes together, but I always kind of like thinking that she was like there to support Drew. And she's also, you know, also this movie in a lot of like marketing was like Basic Instinct and, you know, very what Sharon Stone was representing at that time. So I just think it was like a show of support and I like it.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that somebody with clout like that would come and like support.
Yeah, because I think she's the only other person of note that I've ever seen that went. And Sara Gilbert, of course, was there too. I don't even know if Tom Skerritt or Cheryl Ladd went. I've never seen photos of them there.
I don't know. I kind of want to look, but I can picture Sharon Stone. She's wearing like a big t-shirt, I feel like, isn't she?
Yeah. We'll have to share some photos. Very early 90s.
So the movie opened on a pretty limited release. This is pretty common for indie films. So it opened in LA and New York on May 8th of 1992. So just a few days after the premiere.
Yeah. And I don't even think it ever got a wide release. So did not do successfully in the theatrical release, but it makes up for it. We'll get to that.
Yes.
Drew did do a ton of press for this. This was her big comeback. Like, this is the first thing that really put her back on the map as this like adult-ish teen vixen, sexy bad girl, what she would be for the next few years.
Yeah, it definitely was one of her renaissances, as I like to say.
Yep, it really, really was. She went on like Arsenio Hall, Dennis Miller shows. There was magazines, like we mentioned, Movie Line, Us, Interview, Venice. Like, there's so many magazines from this era. If you want to check those out, we have a great 1992 magazine page on the Drewseum, and there's all kinds of good content there for you to
good old self-promotion for the Drewseum. Should I play this little clip from one of the press conversations?
I like the shock. It's incredible to see the response that people are having towards this film, let alone seeing me doing the things that I do in this film when they think of me as a little girl. I'm not a little girl anymore.
Yeah, you kind of are, though.
And she looks like a baby.
Yeah.
So, a couple of reviews, which I always like reading. So, Peter Travers for Rolling Stone said,
you know who that is, right?
I can picture him. Is he in like one of the bio things? And we used to like talk about, what's the quote that we used to like?
I don't remember, but we definitely had like a laugh about him.
Yes, I can picture him, but I don't remember what the quote is. That's so funny. So he said, Barrymore nails every carnal, comic, and vulnerable shading in her role. She's a knockout.
Beautifully said.
Carnal is such a good word too.
Yeah. And then this is kind of a longer one, but it's really great from Us, not us, you and I. Before Us Weekly, there was just Us. That's what it was called.
Yes.
And it was a great magazine and I miss it Still to this day. They said Poison Ivy's big draw is Drew Barrymore, all grown up and weathered before her time. She plays a lonely, lethal Lolita looking for some company on her dead-end trip to nowhere. Barrymore gives a terrifically frank and sexy performance. The 17-year-old actress is notorious for her drug downfall and recovery, and the experience shows. With trashy confidence, she pulls her lips into a heart-shaped pout and struts around like she owns the earth. Her every move cries, too much, too soon.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a good one. Also, that, of course, is her great aunt Diana's autobiography title, Too Much, Too Soon.
That's right. That's a good review.
It's a great one.
Wow. I just like every line has some kind of, I like the trashy confidence. Wow. Cool. Thank you for pulling those. That's
sure.
Neat. The film later gained cult status through video and cable releases. So yeah, even though it didn't have its big theatrical release, splash, Drew definitely got recognition for this, and people remember her for this role. Like, I think that people at the time, and then for Drewbies, it's like iconic.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggies. Like, as I said at the beginning, it's one of those like, oh, Poison Ivy is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
There are some sequels, as we mentioned. They didn't have Kat Shea's involvement at all. In 1996, there was Poison Ivy 2, Lily, starred Alyssa Milano. She's this girl that finds Ivy's diary and tries to be like her. And that's where I was like, her name wasn't Ivy, so I'm out. Like, because it's supposed to be like before she went to the Cooper's house. It's so silly. In 1997, there was Poison Ivy, The New Seduction with Jamie Presley. And I guess she's Ivy's little sister, Violet.
Okay.
And then I guess, I didn't even know this. In 2008, there was Poison Ivy, The Secret Society, a Lifetime movie. I know. I think I tried to read the summary and it was like gibberish and I just... Yeah.
So our interest is primarily in Drew Barrymore's 1992 Poison Ivy, directed by Kat Shea. Yeah. But it is fascinating that there has somehow been like an expanded universe for a character that was made up, and the name, it totally just turns its canon upside down. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And this very last thing, I don't remember this at all.
Oh, interesting.
So tell me about this.
Okay, so there was a fashion brand called Unif, UNIF, and they did a whole line inspired by Poison Ivy in 2012 for their summer line, and their marketing campaign for it is incredible. They got this blonde girl and this brunette girl. They both have huge curly hair, and they're wearing very inspired by the time clothes.
Mm-hmm.
From what I recall, there was like a YouTube video, I don't even think it exists anymore, that showed all of the images, and they had like the voiceover from the movie kind of going throughout based on this like screenshot I have here.
Yeah. Wow. I have like no recollection.
It's really neat. They did a great job. It's like perfectly inspired. It's not like a direct, cosplay, but you look at it and you're like, got it. I know what they're going for here.
Well, this image, it's like supposed to be exactly like how she's sitting when she's sunbathing.
Yeah, it's really good. So we'll share photos from this.
Yeah, that's really neat. So here we are at the end of our Poison Ivy episode.
Oh my God, we did it.
I can't believe we did it.
I'm so excited.
We've been talking about it for a while. This is an important one. It's like, it feels so, I feel like a lot of the information about it, I don't know what I was going to say.
Okay.
I lost my train of thought. I was trying to figure out how to wrap it up, I think.
You've just been rendered speechless by the beauty and the evil charisma of Ivy.
Yeah, I have. I don't know what to say anymore.
Go jump off a balcony. You're done. Anyway, we hope you guys like this. This was real. I'm like thrilled to be releasing this episode. This has been in the works, and there's a lot of love that we have for it. And I didn't go too much on my like, this is uncomfortable, she's a teenager rant this time. I feel like I'm trying to rein that in. And again, like, I didn't feel it as much as I expected to because of the way the material was handled, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, it's cool to like try to find that lens. It's like, we almost like expect to feel ick. Right. So like, you're almost like, what can help me not feel ick with this?
But great movie. I'm so happy to revisit it. I still love it.
Yeah. And again, I like the one thing I will say coming out of it as like wanting to be protective of Drew as the individual, that person is like, said that she said she felt safe on the set.
Yeah.
So we can come out of this going like, she did do this like stuff that was questionable for a teenager, but Drew felt safe, and that's what's important.
And it very much felt like her decision through and through. So hopefully she never felt exploited.
Yeah. And yay, Drew.
So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. If you liked it, recommend it to somebody. A lot of people have been talking about Poison Ivy in the podcast universe lately. I feel like I've listened to so many great episodes about it. So we're happy to join their company. So tell people, rate, review, please, please, please. We haven't gotten a new review on Apple Podcasts in a hot minute. Let's go, guys. Who's going to be the first? The race is on.
I'm waiting for it to be a cold minute, so it's much shorter.
I like that.
We want it to be only cold minutes between our reviews.
Please. Follow us on Instagram at How Do You Drew Pod. We didn't mention this at the top, but we have gone bi-weekly, which means we're coming out every 2 weeks right now. If you're ever wondering about our schedule, just go to that Instagram at How Do You Drew Pod, and we will keep you abreast of the latest. Oh, and we have a newsletter now. Yes, go join our newsletter. Just go to our website. It'll pop up right there at the top. You can sign up, and then you are going to get a monthly newsletter that will tell you anything you might have missed about the podcast. Finally putting it out there. I've been working on it on and off for literally like a year and a half. It's so embarrassing. It's that much work to like get it all figured out, but we are releasing it this week. Actually, by the time you're hearing this, it will be out. So if you want to get that newsletter and stay up to date, go sign up, please.
Yeah. So there's yet another thing that's being managed. In addition to the podcast, guys, we've got content everywhere. Make sure you visit our website, howdoyoudrew.com, hosted on the Drewseum.com. Ashley has mentioned our website a couple times for the location section, for the magazine section. Like, check out the whole thing. We've got so much cool stuff on there.
We have lots of great Poison Ivy memorabilia too that you should definitely go look at.
We do. And we'll have an episode page for this week and have lots of fun pictures to share as usual. Sign up for our Patreon. You know where to find us.
Patreon.com/howdoyoudrew.
And then don't forget to send listener mail to howdoyoudrewpod@gmail.com.
Did we also mention that by the time this comes out, you can go over to our friends at Movies That Made Us Gay and hear us on their podcast talking about Charlie's Angels. Amazing.
We have too much stuff.
We are busy.
We are busy. That's why we had to go bi-weekly. Our demand is high, but we're still putting lots of stuff out there, guys.
That's right. We are not taking a break.
Yes. My friend Ashley, have a nice holiday.
You too.
And I'll see you all next Tuesday.
Sounds good. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye. This episode of the How Do You Drew podcast was researched and produced by Ashley and Ann from thedrewseum.com with help from our sponsor, Positive Medium.
Special thanks to Matt Costa for our lovely theme song, Roxy Prima for our adorable logo, and last but not least, Drew Barrymore and all the Drewbies who love her. We do this for you. Thank you.